big hello and a very warm welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 8 with me, Sonali Krishna. Today I have with me a very special guest. He's an entrepreneur first, but these days I'm calling him one of the biggest corporate mughals we have in our country. He's traveled a long road and he's one of the few businessmen of today also focused on giving back to society. I'm talking about none other than Harsh Mariwala. Thank you so much, Mr. Mariwala. Truly a pleasure seeing you virtually. If not meeting you in person, I would have preferred if I actually met you in person and interview.
Same here. I would also prefer to meet you in person, but nonetheless, at least we are meeting virtually. Thank you very much for having me and for the introduction.
So, Mr. Mariwala, of course, everybody knows that you're chairman of Marico and the founder of Marico Innovation Foundation, but not many people know is the kind of work that you do. I want to specifically start this conversation talking about your effort in participating in battling the COVID-19 fight that the country is currently fighting. I believe in March, you decided to take on the mantle of trying to produce ventilators for the country at large and look at innovations, because Indian ventilators per se has always had a bad name. Take me through that thinking process and the trigger for you to actually do something like this and what you actually did with your partners.
So let me just give a little bit more background to what you mentioned just now. Marico Innovation Foundation launched what we call a grand challenge to meet the needs of equipment to meet the challenge of the COVID spread. And we had split it into two parts. One was ventilators. The other was non-ventilators, which comprised of PPE equipment, masks, and also UV equipment. And we put it up 29th March, this challenge. We got something like 600 confirmed applications. So it was a huge response, much beyond our expectations. And we had to break up the innovation into two different parts. The non-ventilator, which was announced about a month and a half back, the winners. And then the ventilator, which was announced about a week back. The ventilators took a little longer time because we wanted to be absolutely sure that whoever is given the grant and identified as winners, they have the right kind of a product which is safe to use, which has got permissions, which has been tested. And we went through a very, very detailed process of how judging them. We have had a very, very eminent jury led by Dr. Mashilkar, and medical experts, pulmonologists, and many other technical experts were a part of that jury. I also participated in the jury more as an observer. And then the jury met twice. The first time they met, they shortlisted about six candidates. And then we had a knowledge partner. They were asked again to verify the claims and just to ensure that whatever was being claimed is delivered through the machines. And they came back to the jury, and then there was a second round of jury based on which the three final winners were selected. So very, very detailed, and I must say very, very thorough jury. And I think we have now three winners, which have been finalized for the ventilators. We similarly had three winners for the non-ventilators, which were announced about 1.5 months back. And currently we are in the process of helping them scale up. And I must say the progress is very good on that front also. But what is most exciting about the ventilators is that all these three are affordable. They are almost 70 to 80% lower cost than the imported ventilators. All of them have capacities ranging from 1,000 to 3,000 machines a month. All of them are innovative, and each of the three, one is meeting a different type of need. One of them would meet a need to be at a lower end in terms of operation, easy to operate. It can be done from homes also. It can be done in smaller medical centers also. And that kind of a ventilator would be good for smaller towns, rural markets, because there are no hospital facilities there. And these can be operated through without a doctor. So I think it will meet a very, very crying need in terms of the availability of machines where there are no hospitals. And then there are two other players. That player, which the first one I talked about is KPIT Technologies. And the other two players are Shreyans and Noka. And both of them have some unique features which are very innovative. And all three of them have been tested. Some of them have got certificate accreditation. Some of them are in the process of getting the certificate. But the key thing we wanted to assure the Indian users was that this is affordable, this is innovative, and this is tested in terms of quality and reliability. So we are very confident that this you can replace the imported ventilators by using these machines. So it's a huge benefit considering the number of machines which are going to be required across the country, because the spread of COVID is now actually getting into interior areas. And with so many different interior areas, you will have to have some machine to satisfy the local need there in that particular location. So I'm very, very excited about these three winners. Triage is a top-of-the-line device for ICU, offers specification on par with most expensive imported ventilators. It also has an auto mode for unattended patients, and in absence of piped oxygen, it's able to use ambient air with oxygen. It will benefit small hospitals in remote areas. Second one is the one which I was talking about, KPIT, very compact, very low in weight. It can easily be operated. It is not a full-fledged advanced ventilator, but it will be very, very important for smaller towns and to be operated at home and at medical centers. And the third one is Noka, which is again a lightweight device with limited portability and advanced specifications. It also has an affordable cost and offers long hours of battery backup in case of electricity failures, which happens in rural areas. So each of them is actually satisfying a certain need. Each of them is innovative in a different way. And each of them is priced anywhere between, the KPIT is 1.5 to 2 lakhs. The other two I mentioned about is in the range of 3.5 to 4 lakhs. And each of them have a capacity of anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 ventilators per month. Our role in terms of Marico Innovation Foundation is to, after they get the grant, we'll give them money. One of them doesn't need money, which is a public company, KPIT Technologies, but the other two we will fund them. And then in addition to them, if they require any other help in terms of getting some permissions, fast tracking them, if they want some entry in hospitals, if they want some networks to be deployed from our side, we will try our utmost to help them, because they have set up a capacity, they're innovative, they're affordable, and they're scalable. So it's very important for us to hold their hands and do whatever we can to make them succeed.
They've now come up with the product. What is step 2 in terms of scaling up?
Some of them have already started supplying, but they've created a larger capacity. So the biggest 2 steps, I would say, is to wherever the permissions have not come from the government authorities, we have to ensure that it comes fast. Can we help them fast track? Number 2, once all the permissions are come and all the tests are done, we should help them to sell more through different means. One of them is through talking much more about them on the media, so that there is more awareness of what they've done. In addition to them actually connecting them to the right hospitals or medical centers, and talk about them that this is something which is tested, reliable, and basically can you try that out. So basically ensuring that they are able to scale up. So I would say basically scaling up and getting permissions would be the key 2 roles we can play in this.
What is the kind of cost involved for companies like these who have have to invest time, but more importantly, money as well, to come up with a product or a prototype that is acceptable in the marketplace?
See, I must give a compliment to all the manufacturers that they've been able to develop a product, test it within a very short period of time. Now, some of them were in related businesses, so to that extent, they were able to use their current capacity, their current know-how, or they are working with some other contract manufacturers who have a similar capacity. So it's not that you have to put up a new factory just to manage this. You have to tailor-make your current R&D to develop these products. You have to tailor-make your current manufacturing if you can manufacture. So I don't have the exact cost, what it costs, but the fact that it has been done within a very short period of time is very, very heartening. It's very good. And I'm very happy that it has been cracked within a short period of time.
you're an entrepreneur first before anything else. And if I had to take you down memory lane and take you down when you just started your business, as you're aware, a lot of small businesses are on the verge of collapse and need a ventilator themselves to breathe some oxygen back and get them back to life. Now you're a man who's filled with so much experience. You could battle anything. Any problem is not something that you will succumb to. But as a younger Harsh Mariwala, if let's say you were thrown with this unforeseen, unprecedented event like COVID-19, how hard do you think is this going to hit small businesses? Because while we have a lot of optimistic talk from different government bodies, state government, central government, I think the reality on ground is pretty serious, grave. People are bleeding, and tomorrow looks very, very grim.
Good question. I would say that I think all of us are in a storm, that's for sure. But we are in different boats, There are some businesses which are doing well in this pandemic. And if you look at my own example, I have Marico, which is basically in essential products, FMCG products, which is doing well. It's almost doing normal business from June onwards. And there is no impact of that in terms of the business impact. Of course, there is impact in terms of anxiety, sitting at home. So I think the key thing as a CEO, and the other option is other business I have is Kaya Skin Clinics, which was shut until almost June. In June, we have mid-June we started opening selectively, but still the business is very, very low because many centers are opening and again closing. We've seen Bangalore, we've seen Chennai, we've seen Calcutta. So the impact there is much higher. And I think we need to figure out I think as leaders, what will happen to our business and what is the likely impact of that on all our stakeholders, So whether it's your own employees or whether it is the shareholders or whether it is your associates or your customers, what do you need to do that? How do you walk that extra mile to give them that comfort is the most important role for an entrepreneur, So I think the most important thing in this to communicate, over-communicate, I would say. And basically communicate to all the employees. If you are the top of the company and at lower levels, again, you do communication with your own teams. I think the basic thing is to ensure that the anxiety is put at rest and ensure that I think whatever we have to show a lot of empathy, a lot of caring. And not only for the members of your own organization, but their families also. Because the families also have got impacted in this pandemic. There is a lot of stress, there is a lot of anxiety. So if I had to sum up what would be the key leadership trait which is required in these times is, I would say, authenticity. You have to come out as very, very authentic as a person who cares for all the stakeholders, who is able to deal with anxiety proactively, who continuously communicates. So I think these are the qualities which are very, very crucial in today's time as a senior person. And again, depending on the kind of business one is in, you may decide things may be very bad, which may require some sort of impact on salary levels. It may be leading to some closures in very bad cases. In some cases like Marico, there is no impact at all because even those who don't have work sitting at home, they get paid. There are no cuts at all. But I think you cannot have one yardstick to apply to all the businesses. It will differ on the kind of business one is in, but irrespective of what happens, you have to come out very authentic. You have to actually throw the challenge back to your employees and say that what would you have done in my place? And they have to understand if there is some hard actions taken, it is taken under some very, very trying circumstances. So it's very important to make them step into your shoes and make them realize that what you're doing is the right thing for the organization. Because if you run out of cash or if you run out of business, if it is closed down permanently, the damage done will be to all the stakeholders. So if there's a short-term impact because of this, I think they should be made to realize that it is required for the continuation of all the stakeholders.
I understand you're talking from a standpoint of, let's say, companies that have some structure, some protocol. But what about the unorganized sector? They're small businesses. They do not have the sophistication or the nuance to communicate because they themselves are so super anxious and are wondering whether they have a business tomorrow or not. And that seems to be the situation on ground. The casualty seems quite heavy.
No, you're absolutely right. As for smaller entrepreneurs, they have less number of people. They don't have that much of financial reserves in hand. The situation will be far more difficult, and sometimes it could mean that they may have to permanently close down things. Sectors like restaurants, small hotels, they're all very badly affected. I think they will have to find their answers, but they would also, even in small teams, they would have to show authenticity because, ultimately, whoever is working with them, they have to show caring, empathy, and understand what everybody is going through. And I think as leaders, whatever, it may be a leader of a small company or a small business, but they are in leadership position and they have to exhibit the leadership trait of authenticity amongst the limited stakeholders.
If you look at different governments across the world and juxtapose that with ours, and I'm not saying we should look at governments that are much more advanced and much richer than, let's say, a country like ours, but if you juxtapose it with other developing nations such as ours, do you think the government has done enough to give a stimulus, not only to the ones who are dying, but also to people, to consumers, to have more cash in our wallets? I mean, finally, if you want to re-oil our entire engine, we need to spend money. But if all of us are extremely scared about whether we will have a job tomorrow, if people have jobs, we've already all suffered salary cuts. People have also lost tons of jobs in our job list. There are no jobs available.
So my knowledge on this front is a bit limited, I would say. And because I'm not impacted to that extent, and my exposure to those who are dealing with such issues is much, much lower. But I think prior to COVID also, the government finances were stretched, and because the economy was not in the best of the shape, and it's become worse now. So the government has announced a lot of initiatives for poorer sections of the economy, for the needies, and to that extent, compared to many other developed countries, there is no direct stimulus or direct benefit given to industries, which I don't think we can go on comparing with those because, our ways and means situation is not as good as many other countries. So I think the government would, I don't think the story is ended. The COVID will continue and maybe the government will do much more in future also. And they're not waiting. They don't announce everything at one go, but, depending on how the situation pans out, they may decide to do something at a later date also.
You're also a person who mentors a lot of startups. You have taken a keen interest over the years with startups. How are they doing? How are they facing these really, really turbulent times? Do you see a lot of startups having that kind of staying power to stay the course during these tough times and then emerge stronger? Or do you see startups also collapsing as we progress on this COVID journey?
I think whether it's startup or whether it is medium size or small scale or large scale, I think we are going to see a lot of bloodbath, that's for sure. In terms of insolvencies, some lot of people will not be able to survive because the crisis is of huge magnitude. And the startup also will not be able to survive this. So the weaker sections, the businesses which are under far more pressure, like hospitality, airlines, restaurants, we will have a huge shakeout. But that will happen. I don't think one can escape that. As far as startup is concerned, I think to some extent there has been, I would call it beyond startups, basically early stage investing. The investors who are looking at it from a long-term point of view in terms of increased turnover and without looking at the profitability, I believe they have become far more demanding and now they want to see visibility to profitability and not just top-line growth, So I think there will be pressure from investors. First of all, the availability of fund itself will reduce because the funders don't want to take too many risks as the situation is very, very unpredictable at this stage also. When will the COVID end and what will be the impact on business? So I would say that the overall funding has reduced for future. And number two, within that also the expectations of bottom line improvement has increased. So I think double whammy from that point of view. Availability reduced and all of a sudden the funders who are there, they're asking the startups or the early stage businesses to start showing profitability. So they would again be in a difficult situation. But again, depending on the kind of sector you are in, for example, in education, and that's one, all e-related businesses are doing well, whether education or e-pharmacies or e-consulting. I think they will do well because there is a shift in the habit. I mean, who could have imagined that one would operate from home for months and months, and nobody could have thought about it. I think there will be a shift, and the fact that we've done it for so long, whether it's e-shopping or e-learning or e-consulting or e-prescriptions, I think that's going to be continued in future also. So again, going back to the kind of sector you are in, you will get funded or not get funded, and there will be more pressure on you in terms of improving your bottom line.
You've talked about how we have changed, our habits have possibly changed forever. I think jury's out on that one. But let's assume we go with what everybody's saying, that our habits have changed forever. How, in your opinion, and you're the best person to answer this question, how will consumption change forever? How will we consume differently? And do you think also, people are talking about change in the consumption basket, do you think we'll also start consuming less or more?
First of all, there will be certain areas where the overall demand will be much higher. We are getting more health conscious, which is very good. So whether it's your weight or immunity builders, or if you are suffering from some comorbidity, which can be rectified by living a better lifestyle, I think those definitely will do better. So whether it's the right foods or exercises or yoga or meditation or immunity builders, I think all these are going to continuously get traction in the future. The second is hygiene, washing more hands more often, sanitizers. We have in Marico launched a new product for washing of vegetables and fruits, which we call Veggie Clean. It's got good traction, and I think people will continue using that kind of product in future because they don't want to take a risk. So there is more heightened sensitivity to hygiene, to health. Eating at home has increased dramatically, and then e-commerce, and buying online has doubled or trebled in groceries compared to what it was in the past, and that habit will continue in future also, because now everybody's got used to buying through that route and the convenience of buying through that route. There may be some degree of, shall I say, adjustment on spending on luxuries, but to some extent luxuries may get consumed a little lesser. But other thing, I think otherwise we may go back to our old ways of buying and consuming.
On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Mariwala. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you.